Hi guys, welcome to China Perspective. My name is 𝗵𝗵𝗶𝗀𝘀 and you may know me as a German recruiter in Asia. Today I want to talk about China's airline industry, a sector that's seen some serious growth but also facing huge challenges behind the scenes. While headlines recently boasted record-breaking passenger numbers, there's another side of the story as well. So let's take a closer look at China's aviation market. And let's start with those record-breaking passenger numbers that have been reported. In 2024, China's airlines saw a huge surge in passenger numbers, hitting 730 million trips, up nearly 18% from last year. I personally travel a lot domestically as well as internationally, and I felt throughout the last year that there's been an increase in very short check-in times and almost guaranteed a free seat next to me on the airplane. And I feel nowadays it's been really increasing and getting a little bit more dense in seating arrangements. What sticks with me is how so many of retail stores at airports have closed. Maybe in a Starbucks and a noodle store have been open, but a lot of it was closed. Despite the often lonely feeling I personally got when I stood at airports last year, numbers published show that the domestic travel is growing and the government has done everything it can do to stimulate demand. But here's the catch. Despite all this growth, airlines like Air China are still reporting significant losses. Air China alone has lost nearly $400 million in the first half of 2024. Why? It's simple. While they're flying more passengers, they're not making more money. Operating costs, especially fuel prices, plus an oversupply of planes, are putting massive pressure on profit margins. Airlines are competing with each other so fiercely that ticket prices have been slashed, making it harder to actually turn profit. We just recently got out of the Chinese New Year travel period, often dubbed the largest annual migration of the world. There were reports of people holding off to buy their ticket until the very last moment to snatch the very best price. And airlines usually they have to plan ahead. So if people don't buy enough tickets, then they slash and drastically reduce prices towards the departure time. This has led to several early birds being a little bit unhappy as they feel an early booker should get the most beneficial price. And then there is the international market. Domestic travel in China is active, with also more domestic holidays spent there. This year, we even got 2 additional public holidays this year, Chinese New Year. But international routes, not so much. There's still a massive gap between pre-pandemic levels and current demand for international flights. And I mean, sure, China has been opening up routes, but it's clear that geopolitical tensions are a little bit of a hurdle. Relations with the US have been difficult, and other Western countries are also in flux. And that is hurting some demand for flights into China and back. Many foreign airlines are also stopping or reducing their China routes. Due to the closure of the Russian airspace, some of the flight routes got longer and less profitable as they have to fly around. This is not true for all Chinese airlines, so giving them a little bit of a leg up. Despite the visa-free policies from China to many countries where individuals first could enter 15 days and now even for 30 days without a visa, there has been a comparatively lower demand of international travelers. And we also have to remember that most Chinese tourists are not yet back to traveling to Europe, traveling to the States en masse as they did before the pandemic. It's not all bad, though. There's growth in certain regions, especially in Southeast Asia and in the Middle East, but this is far from the global rebound many airlines had hoped for. The reduction of Western executives in China has also resulted in a little bit of reduction in especially first-class tickets, usually paid by the very big companies if they're large enough. And this is a customer segment that's usually really positive for the profit margins. In general, people still really try to save costs, and many are, if they're traveling privately, also not willing anymore to pay for business class, and companies are also less willing to pay it. And while domestic tourism is booming, we can't ignore the fact that international flights bring in significantly higher profit margins. Without that, many Chinese carriers are struggling to make the numbers work. Now, let's talk about geopolitics for Chinese airlines as well. With the ongoing US-China trade tensions, international airlines are pulling back and Chinese carriers are also facing some restrictions. Routes are being cancelled. So, is this the end of China's global aviation ambitions? I personally don't think so. But right now, things are not so easy. It is clear that these geopolitical headwinds are making it much harder for Chinese airlines to recover and expand abroad. And while the government is doing what it can do to support the industry, it's not enough to counteract these effects of these strained relationships. Another point is the COMAC. So COMAC is a commercial aircraft corporation of China, and it's China's homegrown aircraft manufacturer. The C919, a jet that's supposed to rival the likes of Boeing and Airbus as a symbol of China's aviation future. But here's the problem. It is still not quite ready for the next big step. The C919, despite all the hype, is still reliant on Western suppliers for key components like engines and avionics. It is not yet certified for international flights, even though the process is ongoing. The question is, will China's aviation industry really be able to compete with Boeing and Airbus in the future? Well, I don't know. But I do know the story of the Chinese automotive companies who, when they went abroad, did not pass a number of tests, but now they are everywhere, and BYD and other Chinese firms are doing really well. So then I would assume that, yes, it's a matter of time, not a matter of if. But now let's zoom out and look at China's broader economic situation, because it's also playing a huge role in how the airline industry is performing. The country's economy has been and is still facing some serious headwinds, from a struggling real estate sector to some debt issues and fierce local competition. This is having a direct impact on airlines as well. While there's been some recovery in passenger traffic, it's mostly been fueled by government policies aimed at boosting domestic tourism. But here's the problem. This type of growth is not always sustainable in the long run. Whether China's economy will stabilize and when and how quickly will make a huge impact. One more issue that's starting to get attention is overcapacity. China's airline industry is currently dealing with an oversupply of planes, and that's a problem. The competition is fierce, and airlines are flying more planes than they actually need. This overcapacity is driving down ticket prices and squeezing profit margins even further. It's a race to fill seats at any cost, but it's becoming less and less profitable to do so. In short, China's airlines are in a tight spot. More planes, but fewer profits. But let's end on a more optimistic note. Despite all the challenges, there are some signs of real growth. Passenger traffic is back up. Cargo volumes are increasing, and China is still expanding its air network. The aviation service market is now worth $23 billion US. Many of the companies I have spoken to in Q1 2025 are more optimistic about their business in China in this year than they've been in all of 2024. So what does the future hold? Well, the future of China's airline industry is a bit of a mixed bag. While there's been growth in passenger numbers and some promising signs of recovery, the challenges are undeniable. From financial losses and overcapacity to geopolitical tensions and the uncertainty around COMAC, it's clear that China's aviation industry is still in the midst of a bumpy ride. As we move throughout the year 2025, it's still too early to say whether the sector can stabilize and become truly profitable, or if it continues to struggle with deep-rooted challenges. Only time will tell. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please comment, let me know your opinions, and follow for more. Thank you. Bye-bye.